G'day, I'm Bob Winters from Winton Wetlands, and we've got a transect here behind me, a set of metal poles, each 10 metres apart, and they start down here in the flat and they work their way up the hill. And what we're doing here is taking measurements and looking at how the environment changes as we go from what was an artificial lake and what is a natural hilltop. What we do first is to use an app called Soligator, and you won't see it there, but the Soligator app, when you take a photo, you get the direction you've taken the photo and the exact coordinates. So that's a good way of being able to refer back to at school at what the environment would actually look like. So the environment is quite a contrast with flat land with dead trees and a hillside escarpment with quite a lot of established old trees. So we've got a whole lot of different things for us to measure. We'll start with a light meter. So this is what a light meter looks like, and you have your little numbers that come up here, and we hold the light meter like that and we take the reading and record the reading. So we have a sheet like this to take our records on, and once we've done that, we'll have gone from the low part right up to the high part, taking a reading at each of the poles. Each of the poles is numbered. Another one we can do is we can test the ground, how hard it is. Now we've got these little ice smashers, and we poke that in the ground. If it goes in really easily, that's one measurement. It can go down with a bit of pressure, that's another measurement. If it only goes down a little way, that's another measurement. And if it won't go in at all, that means obviously that the soil's pretty hard. So that's a qualitative rather than a quantitative. So this will give you a number. This one is a little bit of judgment involved, but it will tell you where the soil's extremely hard and where the soil is quite soft. We have this little meter which does the wind. So what we do here with the wind, we press that button for about 15 seconds for it to come on, and when it's on we start getting our readings. Another thing we can measure is the amount of moisture in the air. Now this area is quite close to each other, and you'd expect that the air moisture would be fairly similar from here up to the hill. But if we were doing different sort of measurements in different sorts of places, we might find the moisture in the air quite different. We have a sound recorder that gives us decibels. Now that's not going to vary much here in this environment, but in other environments you might find that some habitats are quite loud. They might be near roads or something like that, and you might get quite a different sound recording. Not every instrument here will find changes in the environment, but if you do the same things in another environment you might find quite contrasting changes. Now I've got my iPad here, or just the toolbox. Now one of the things on this toolbox app is there's a level, and as you rotate this it'll give you the angle the iPad's at. So what you have to do is put this on the ground and take a reading of what the angle is. Obviously it's flat, it's going to be 0 degrees, and the more this inclines the greater the angle. So that's something else we can measure in the environment, the slope of the area. Something else we can do, we could use a compass and we could use a streamer. No, we're not having a holiday, but we can find out how it's being blown. So the wind's blowing the streamer in that direction, and usually we say the wind's coming from that direction over there where I'm pointing with my right hand. So we've got a compass, and we use a compass, point it to the north, have that there, and see what direction the wind is coming from. So the important part is where the wind's coming from. Now we've got an amazing looking tool here. This is for getting soil cores. So what we do is we lean on it quite hard, we twist it and twist it and twist it, and we see how much soil we can get in. Now most of the soil here is fairly hard, except where there's a lot of sediment. So you may not get very large core samples. Once you've got your core sample, we have a camera somewhere. Here's the camera. You can use your phone, or you can use a little camera like this. We place that down, and we need to know where we've taken a photograph of it. So, for instance, if it's at the 5th pole, we can lie that down beside it like that. We can take our photo, and then when we get back to school, we can line these up and see if the soil has changed over a distance, and we describe how the soil has changed. If the soil is blocked up in the end of this, we can just scratch it out like that using a screwdriver. Now, one of my fun activities is using this little toy, and what we do is we point it at the ground, so usually at hip level, and when we press the button on the back, it gives you a reading of what the temperature is being reflected from the surface. So at the moment it's quite sunny and it's 42.8 degrees being reflected back off the surface. Hence it's a really good idea to wear sunscreen, have a hat on, and it gives you an idea what you're standing in. So again, you do this at a variety of different places and you see if the soil temperature or the temperature being reflected back. So there might be different things that are important to record that the other records do. So it might be different from, say, soil or a log, a rock, if there's grass, or if it's shaded. So there's a whole lot of different variables, and you need to have sort of some understanding what the change is between those. Now this one, if you do it as a square, you lie it on the ground, and then within that little square, put it like that, everything you can find that fits into the plastic bag, you put it in the plastic bag. They're mostly going to be leaves, and this little machine here weighs it, and you put the bag on top of that like that, and it'll give you a weight. You need to turn it on by pressing that little button. Now it's real. We've got another one here. So this one we fill up with water, not fill it up, half full of water. We spill that on the ground, but from about knee high. Pour it on, and then we measure with a ruler how far it's spread. So if it's going to soak into the ground very quickly, you'll get a very small area that becomes wet. If it's running off the surface, it's going to be quite a large area. So there are two rulers here if you can't add up and spread it out. So you measure the distance. Of course, each time you do it, needs to have the same amount of water in it. And in this particular case, we carry that around, and then we come back and do our refills here. When we come here to Winton Wetlands, some things are fairly important in your preparation. You need a hat, you need long trousers, and you need your sunscreen on. Now there's a really good reason for having trousers on around here and enclosed shoes, and that is because there's plenty of other animals that make this their home, and there's certainly a couple of very nice looking red-bellied black snakes. Now, as far as I know, nobody's ever been killed by a red-bellied black snake, and we wouldn't want you to be the first. So have a look at this. Each one of these comes with its own sheet that explains it and what units you'll be using, and you will need to have a record sheet to write down all of your material.